Happy Monday, my fellow 420 family. We have a lot going on this week in the cannabis industry. In the news from last week, the firing of federal employees who admitted cannabis use on their application. Here is the report by my 420 spot. Congressman calls the drug-related firings in the Biden White House an antiquated response. Several White House staff members were reportedly asked by the Biden administration to resign or otherwise punished over past marijuana use. An approach dubbed antiquated and inconsistent with the burgeoning legalization movement. Although earlier reports suggested government employees who had admitted to using cannabis earlier in their careers would receive waivers. It has been reported by several sources close to the matter that dozens of workers have been terminated or suspended after disclosing their previous usage of cannabis on federal forms that are used for background checks. Kamala Harris, the vice president, was on record about smoking marijuana as a teen, yet she never had her employment reprimanded for it. VP Harris even joked about her own cannabis consumption during her 2020 presidential campaign. It's a point that cannabis advocates picked up on immediately after news broke about the firings related to marijuana. Responding to questions regarding the report on Friday, Representative Earl Blumenauer, a member of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, said, "The federal government continues to have a very uneven response to marijuana use. With our efforts on legalization, one of the things that has happened is that we are acknowledging that this is an antiquated response to an emerging issue," he explained. People now realize that cannabis is used for both recreational and medical purposes, and it is something that affects well over 100 million Americans. There are blips like this, people get a little jittery, but this will soon be history. And our reform legislation that will become law will make clear that this is not a basis for discrimination, he added. People with past convictions can potentially be involved in the cannabis industry as a result of this evolution. The changes are happening very rapidly, and we're watching how these policies change as we speak. The House passed a bill last year stating that cannabis could still be included in drug testing programs for federal employees, but it is not clear at this point whether the legislation that is expected to be passed will remove marijuana as a negative criteria for hiring federal employees. Members of Congress conducted a phone call on Friday on a reintroduction of the Protect and Fair Enforcement Banking (SAFE) Act in the House this week. Representative Ed Perlmutter, DCO, is leading that legislation which would protect banks that service cannabis businesses from being penalized by federal regulators. He also commented on the development of the Biden White House marijuana policy. Even though he hadn't seen the report, the congressman said he was sorry to hear that, stressing the need for Congress to advance cannabis reform. "We need to resolve the conflict between the federal and state laws because otherwise we get things like you discussed. I think the first place where real action will be taken because of the public safety and public health issues is through the SAFE Banking Act." On Friday, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki commented on the controversy, pushing back on the extent of the firings based on marijuana. "We announced a few weeks ago that the White House had collaborated with the Secret Service to update the policies so that past marijuana use would not disqualify staff from serving in the White House," she said. "The result will be that more people will serve who wouldn't in the past with the same level of recent drug use. The bottom line is this: of the hundreds of people hired, only 5 people are no longer employed as a result of the policy. There have been 5 terminations, according to the White House, but the number of those facing suspension or workplace isolation was not disclosed." In addition, the Daily Beast noted that some adverse employment actions may have been the result of inconsistencies in how people filled out their forms. For instance, they may have misstated when they last used marijuana. In any case, advocates maintain that revealing you use cannabis should not prevent you from working in the federal government, especially since more and more states have legalized marijuana and given efforts in Congress to end prohibition. In reaction to the report, former National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes said, "I have no idea if this is true, but I do know I served as a Deputy National Security Advisor from 2009 to 2017 having acknowledged past marijuana use on my forms," adding that it would be wrong to punish people for something that is entirely normal and increasingly legal. He added, "This would disproportionately impact honest young people." Although President Joe Biden opposes adult use legalization, he has supported modest reforms such as legalizing cannabis for medical use, expunging prior cannabis records, rescheduling marijuana, and letting states set their own policies. Earlier this year, there was optimism that the U.S. federal government would adopt a more liberal policy regarding employment eligibility for those individuals who utilize cannabis. NBC News quoted an administration official as saying their guidelines effectively safeguard nation security while modernizing policies so well qualified and talented individuals without a criminal record can serve the American public. In a separate memo distributed to federal agencies, the Office of Personnel Management, OPM, explained that admitting to past marijuana use shouldn't automatically disqualify people from employment in the federal government. There you have the news on the firings. Biden will not legalize cannabis. He is still stuck in the war on drugs, and it is a shame. Way to go, Joe. Thank you for still destroying families. This video is by my 420 spot. Thank you everyone and have a great day. It's 420 somewhere. What are you smoking on? Thank you. Hit that subscribe button to get notified on new videos releases.